The following segments are pre-recorded and sponsored by Longworth Productions.
Major funding for Triad Today comes from Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, making healthcare better for all. Community engagement on Triad Today. Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to a special edition of Triad Today, coming to you again, of course, from the Kernersville Auto Museum. I say it's a special edition. It's brought to you by the good folks at Ground Game Innovation. We appreciate them. This is sort of another in a series of special programs we work with on these great folks. And my special guest also happens to be a good friend that you see every week on the show, Keith Granberry. He's founder of Helping Hands Consultants. Good to see you, buddy.
Glad to be here.
You travel, before we get to the first question, let's just remind people, what would you say Ground Game Innovation is all about, if people want to know?
It's about community engagement and community empowerment. They work in communities where they engage the community in developing education for policies and issues that are important to communities. So it's all throughout the country and all over the world, yeah, where they go and work with various leaders or community groups to really get them to understand the issues that they have and get them to get involved in local politics.
Yeah, and not just, what's going on at the U.S. Capitol today or tomorrow, but what's going on locally.
Yeah, because our politics are local. And so many times people are so involved in the presidential campaign that they forget that the local city council race affects them, the local state races affect them, the U.S. Senate races. All of these races affect them locally, but they're so involved in the national race that they forget that the policies are local.
Yeah, because there's so many newsworthy controversies and things that happen up in Washington, but you have to keep focused on what's happening locally too. Mm-hmm. Now, you travel all over, not just the United States, but all over the world. Mm-hmm. Why is community engagement so important even when you go out of the country into other countries?
Well, when you go to other countries, and I just take South Africa, for instance. Over in South Africa, it's a beautiful country, but when you look at some of the issues that they face, it's important that the community gets involved in understanding why they should vote on certain people and certain groups. For instance, right now, unemployment is around 65% for young people. And we know unemployment leads to crime.
Right.
So one of the things that we try to do is when we're in these communities, we try to work with them to look at some economic issues that they could come up with that would empower the people in the community so they could get jobs, so that they could create opportunities so that some of these issues, and get them involved in the local politics. We all know that politicians say one thing, but their policies say another. So we try to keep them informed on what the policies are doing versus what they're saying.
I think some economic polls came out recently about the areas you're talking about in West Africa as being one of the prime spots in the world for potential for economic development and these other things. So good to have a good ally that we can support and understand that they're interested in the same kinds of issues that we are here. How do you define leadership? Because you're talking about politicians saying one thing and maybe doing another. How do you define leadership? What does it look like?
Well, I've had some pretty good role models myself. Bob Brown, who's been on your show and who was a mentor of mine, he's I would call the definition of a leader. He understands issues. He leads from behind. He doesn't always have to be out front, because many times we think the leaders are the people we see on television, the people who are the loudest, and sometimes that's not it. Quiet leadership where he's advocating for people, he's helping people, he's assisting people on the ground. That's what I call a real leader.
It's funny you mention that, because I'm going to take a quick break, but when we get back, I want to ask you something about how some of the policies and things that are going on have affected some of the pioneering work that Mr. Brown has done. We'll be right back after this.
I am so
Why can no one help me?
This is a nightmare. Healthcare is broken.
At Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina, we get it.
Really?
Really. That's why we're making healthcare better for all. Starting with you. Yes, you, Daryl. We're making plans easier to navigate by putting your benefits, prescriptions, and details all in one place. Convinced?
No. But It's a start.
We'll take it. Blue Cross North Carolina, making healthcare better for all, starting with you.
Back now on this special edition of Triad Today, brought to you by the good folks at Ground Game Innovation with my good buddy Keith Granberry. Now, we mentioned just before the break Robert Brown, Bob Brown, who's been on the show. Just mention some of the pioneering things that he did in terms of supporting minority business enterprise, helping people obtain contracts. Talk about that for a minute.
Well, Bob Brown, first of all, is a Republican, right? And as a Republican, he created programs back when he was in the White House that gave people opportunities to go to college. So college funds in black colleges. He also created a program, the minority program, where people could get contracts, get an opportunity, not just black people, but women and minorities would have an opportunity to bid on contracts that were federal government contracts, which led to billions and billions of dollars being given to those who probably wouldn't have never got it if it wasn't for this program he put together.
Right, and he was brought in personally by President Richard Nixon, who I know a lot of people have a problem with saying, oh, didn't he have the problem covering up Watergate or whatever? But Nixon was sort of looking forward, and he knew of Mr. Brown and brought him in. And as you said, as a black Republican, that was innovative right there.
Absolutely.
And then to make these changes. Now, here's the big question, and we're going to get into some of these things in the roundtable later on in the show, but with a lot of DEI programs going away and being cut, how does that have an effect or on some of these great things that people like Bob Brown were doing? Or have we achieved equality in spite of what's going on now?
Well, we've achieved a lot in America, but I would not say equality is here yet. If you look at the numbers and you look at the statistics, you would see that we still have a way to go when it comes to equality. And many of these programs are going to suffer, and many people are going to lose based on the new rules and regulations around DEI. But I think that for the most part, many people will look at diversity not as a bad thing, but as something that would be productive for them in the workplace, productive for their businesses, and productive for them overall in the community. And I think that people organically are going to continue to look to diversify their workplace, diversify their community, and diversify the schools. But it's I can't say it's not going to hurt, because it is definitely making a change.
It's going to take some courage on the part of some business leaders and others to buck this trend, right?
Well, it's going to take courage, but also one of the things that people will look at is, how's it affecting me in my business? How's it affecting me long term? Because if you take away diversity, like Target, they did a boycott of Target. Target lost billions of dollars from people not shopping at Target based on what they felt like was unfair DEI practices. So there are a lot of things that people are looking at, but I say to most people, instead of looking at that, let's look at how we can continue to diversify the workplace, continue to grow our businesses. But we also have to be realistic and say that there's going to be challenges, and funding is a challenge for small businesses, not just black businesses, small businesses. Funding is a challenge for women. Funding is a challenge for those who normally aren't at the top of the food chart.
When we come back, we're going to honor and recognize and discuss things with two very special gentlemen. Coming up next, the Honorable Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough. Keith and I will question him about some things. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Jim Longworth, reminding you that Triad Today also airs on GTN Spectrum Channel 13 and streams on WFMY Plus, free on Roku and Amazon Fire. Back now on our special program, and we have a very special guest with us on this segment, the Honorable Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough for Forsyth County, that joins Keith and myself for this. Good to see you again, Sheriff.
Good to see you as always.
We've had you on before, but just remind everybody where you grew up and tell us something about your family.
Well, I grew up in Winston-Salem, 25th Street, right across from Bloom Park. Graduate of North Forsyth High School, the class of '79, left there. Went to Pfeiffer, finished at High Point College then, started my career in law enforcement, and from there, God has blessed me after retiring from the federal government as a special agent, decided to run for sheriff, and here I am.
Well, now who or what led you to a career in law enforcement? Was it a parent, an uncle, a teacher, a neighbor?
Well, all my life I was fascinated by a guy named Jim West and Artemis Gordon on a show called The Wild Wild West, chasing bad guys around the corner, around the country, Dr. Lovelace and a few other bad guys.
Great show.
Great show, right? You remember that, huh?
Oh, man.
And so I was just fascinated by this guy that got up every day, went to work, dressed nicely, came back, traveling on a train, And so I said, you know what? I want to be an agent.
Yeah, he was a federal guy.
He was.
Yeah, isn't that something? Because I watch those tapes every once in a while on that. Keith, I know you want to talk to the sheriff about a couple of things.
Well, I want to talk to him about his involvement in the community. I mean, not only is he a sheriff, but he's heavily involved in the community. And why do you think that's so important in your role as sheriff?
I think that whether you're in Forsyth County, anywhere, the community is the foundation of our society, the foundation of all that we do. And so to me, in order to sit in a place of leadership, you have to have what I call community credibility. In other words, the community has to believe in the leadership that is leading that community. And so growing up for me, the community was everything. And that's part of some of the problems that we're having in our society, a breakdown of the community.
Okay. And what do you say to people when it comes to young people and the violence that we're experiencing now? How do you think we should be dealing with that now? Because it seems like a lot of violence, especially around our young leaders.
I think me personally, this is my personal opinion, in our society, the things that we have accepted have become what we have come to expect. There's a correlation with what you accept and what you expect. As we sit in this beautiful place, you wouldn't buy a new car and expect the engine light to come on. Things that are happening in our community, we have come to a place where we have accepted them, we keep moving the needle, and thus you have some of the issues. And at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to groom, raise what I will call our next generation. And I think that we are failing at that, honestly. We are failing at that in terms of educating them. If you look at what's happening, it's evident, and at the end of the day, the side that you feed the most is the side that becomes dominant. And this is what you're seeing that's dominating our society, dominating the culture.
So how do you have 6 sons, and how do you get the leadership that you're teaching them out to the masses? How do you think how is that possible?
So I have 7 boys, I have 7 sons.
Okay.
And so, growing up, we had a hierarchy. If I wasn't present, the next son up would be the person that was enforcing what was be expected. And that person had the ability to enforce it as if I wasn't there. And my kids understood something, and we say this every day, right? Your name is really not your name. It's your grandfather's name. Kimbrough is your grandfather's name and your great-grandfather's name, and you have an obligation to honor that name. I tell my kids, bring no shame to this name. Bring no shame. And so every day I instill upon my kids, every day you have a chance to be great. My mother would say it, oh, God rest her soul, she would say, go make me proud. As a little boy growing up, my mother would say, go make me proud. And I tell my kids that you have to instill that in them. This name is not your name, right? And everything you do, you're creating a legacy. In life, it ain't what you're asking for, it's who asking. And if you come to it and you have something that's following you, it ain't gonna happen for you. And it's about decision making. And we have to, what I call tough love, we have to tell our kids and our children, there is no, everything ain't gonna go your way. Everybody don't win. Everybody don't win. Everybody don't get a prize. That's not how life is designed. And you create this culture.
Right. Well, I know that you've agreed to spend a few more minutes with us. If you'll hang around, coming up next, Keith and I are going to talk with your friend Richard Williams, who's done great things in publishing, and then we're going to circle back and get all of us together for a roundtable discussion. So we'll do that. We'll be right back after this.
I am so
Why can no one help you?
Waiting is the worst. I think it's healthcare is broken.
At Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina, we get it.
Really?
Really. That's why we're making healthcare better for all. Starting with you. Yes, you, Daryl. We're making plans easier to navigate by putting your benefits, prescriptions, and details all in one place. Convinced?
No. But it's a start.
We'll take it. Blue Cross North Carolina. Making healthcare better for all. Starting with you.
Back now on Triad Today, this special edition of Triad Today brought to you by the good folks at Ground Game Innovation and a group that Keith Granberry, our buddy, works with very closely. And Keith put this program together. Now we come to a point in the show where we wanted to honor and recognize and speak with a gentleman that we've had on the show before who's going to share his experiences. Richard Williams is founder, publisher of Black Business Inc. magazine. Good to have you back.
Thank you, Jim. Good to be back.
Now tell us where you grew up and tell me something about your family.
Well, I grew up in a little small town in northeastern North Carolina called Edenton, North Carolina.
I know what that is.
What I call God's country. Love to visit now, but couldn't wait to get out of there. Ended up coming this way to North Carolina A&T, where I got my undergraduate degree from, and the youngest of 11.
What did your parents do?
They were, my father was a laborer and my mother was a domestic. And I always say they're the smartest people I know with modest education. My dad had a 3rd grade education, my mom had a 8th grade education, and they were the smartest people I know. And yeah, and I'm the youngest of 11. I was the only one born in Edenton. The other 10 were born in Burt T County in a little small town called Indian Woods.
Okay.
I won't even say town, I'll say community called Indian Woods.
Well, now, you know, folks that know about Black Business Inc. magazine know that I think this is your 22nd year, same as for Triad Today. We started at the same
absolutely.
time. Who or what led you to a career in publishing?
Well, it actually happened organically. I was a journalist. I majored in communications at A&T, and my first job out of North Carolina A&T was in journalism with the News and Observer publication in Raleigh, and led to my going to New York to work in journalism, led to my coming back here to work in corporate America in public relations with R.J. Reynolds. And in 2000, I decided to leave R.J. Reynolds to start my own business, and which was a public relations firm. And the magazine just organically happened.
It's great.
And it's 22 years later, and I got the scar tissue to prove it.
Keith.
Well, Richard, I know you've been doing this for a while, but what were some of the obstacles that you have faced, and how have you handled those?
Well, surprisingly, because the magazine happened organically, and I was already had a quasi-successful public relations firm, and the magazine just happened to happen, it wasn't a lot of barriers to the magazine because I had built relationships in corporate America that I could reach out to that wanted to advertise with us. I think if you start a magazine from scratch, the main barrier is to secure advertising, which is basically the bread and butter of a magazine. But I had established relationships in corporate America, plus with my public relations firm, that those barriers really weren't an impediment for me.
Okay.
So that was a blessing.
Okay.
Well, what's the mission of the magazine?
Our mission was and is, when we first started the magazine, to serve as an advocate for and to promote African-American owned businesses and African-American business persons. And we treat that mission as sacrosanct, and what we're doing today is a furtherance of that mission, so we have not wavered from it over 22 years.
Keith, I know you know about some of the events that Richard puts on. Why don't y'all talk about that a minute? Because I think they're pretty important for the community.
He just had an event. It was a very successful event. Talk about that, Richard, because I thought this was a one of a kind where it brought a lot of young leaders together, which is what's needed in this community. So you can talk about that, Richard.
Well, this was the second iteration of our 40 Under 40, Black Business Inc. magazine's 40 Under 40, where we honored 40 outstanding young leaders in the community at the Corey Convention Center just last month. And it was a sellout crowd, dynamic speaker, dynamic everything about the Corey Convention Center. Shout out to my volunteers that help and the staff as well. But I mentioned earlier our mission statement. So our events that we've done, the 40 Under 40 in 2022 and 2025, and the Power 100s that we did in 2023 and 2024, they are extensions of our mission statement.
Right.
So we have evolved that mission statement over the years, and it has not been stagnant, but continues to evolve itself.
Well, now I think, Richard, I told you off camera, when we come back, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to bring Sheriff Kimbrough back in, and the four of us will have a discussion about lots of things, engagement and the importance of being involved as you are in many things. But we're going to do that in just a second. Up on screen, blackbusinessinc.com is the website you can go to for more information on that. That is blackbusinessinc.com, and I hope you will do that. We'll be right back after this. Hi, I'm Jim Longworth, reminding you to catch my column Longworth at Large and Yes Weekly every week. It's available throughout the Triad, or you can go online, yesweekly.com. Major funding for Triad Today comes from Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, making healthcare better for all. Back now on this special edition of Triad Today, brought to you by the good folks at Ground Game Innovation. We'll put up their website for you in just a second. But we bring the whole gang back here, and Keith as a guest on this as well, with, of course, Richard Williams, publisher of Black Business Inc. Magazine, the Honorable Bobby Kimbrough, Sheriff of Forsyth County, Keith Granberry, founder of Helping Hands Consultants. Schools, agencies, companies, they're eliminating programs about diversity and equity and inclusion. All three of you guys have been champions of women and minorities in business, in politics, voter education, law enforcement. You come at it from different perspectives. So here's my question for all three of you. Is your mission tougher to realize now, and will you remain steadfast in your efforts? Richard?
We're going to remain steadfast. I mean, we mentioned challenges before that we faced. I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, the next challenge is just the cost of doing business. So we, as an entrepreneur, we have to find a way to navigate these barriers. And I think DEI right now has become kind of a whipping post for people. I compare it to, you know, the affirmative action of the 80s and the 90s, when I happened to be working in corporate America, and it was some of the same issues that we faced. We were able to overcome it then. I think we're overcoming now.
Sheriff, what about you?
First, it's a pleasure to be here with you all in such great company. But for me and the work that we do, diversity is a must. And we are one of the most diverse agencies in this state. So it's a must for me, and we bring in the best talent. So what I would tell you is that we've stayed the course, and we were able to do that by being diverse as well as bringing in the best talent.
You were the first African-American sheriff elected in Forsyth County's history. Did that put extra pressure on you?
You know, I guess I put pressure on myself. I came to the table telling the people they didn't want a black sheriff. You didn't want a white, Republican, Democrat, Independent. You want the best sheriff. And that's the way I've lived my life. You know, I don't have to state the obvious that I'm black. I want to be the best. If I walk in the room, I want to be the best sheriff. If I walk in the basketball court, I want to be the best player. And so I'm going to perform at that level, and how it shakes out. If it so happened that I'm the first black sheriff, I want to be remembered as the
Keith,
best.
you go all over the country and the world, and especially around in the country, doing voter education, voter registration, things like that. You see a lot. Now with what we're talking about, how does that affect what you're doing? Are you going to keep to the cause?
It doesn't affect what I'm doing. I think our politics is local. You have to be able to communicate and educate people on the issues. I keep telling people it's all about the issues. And if you can focus on the issues and pick the best candidate, you're always going to come out on top. And diversity is good for business. Black people spend trillions of dollars every year on products. Hispanic people spend trillions of dollars every year on products. It's good for business, and I think people will recognize that and act accordingly.
And this goes to white and black women too, as far as, you know, people saying, well, you know, we're not going to be told how many women to hire. So I mean, a lot of this affects a lot of people. What's the biggest challenge our community faces today, and how do we meet that challenge? Richard, start with you.
Well, I think a major challenge is economic development, and I think a lot of that, if we look at the unemployment rate of, say, I know overall the unemployment rate is great. I mean, it's like 4.1%, but if you look at the unemployment rate of young African Americans, men between the ages of, say, 18 or say 16 and 25, it's probably 3 times that amount, and I think that's a problem. I know Sheriff Kimbrough has and his team has implemented some issues downtown where they're addressing right now related to teens, and a lot of that is because they don't have jobs and they don't have opportunities that other demographics may have. So I think that's one of the main issues right now is economics.
Sheriff, you've already touched on this earlier in the program a little bit maybe, but what's the biggest challenge you face?
Biggest challenge to me is green, being the color of hope. Green meaning money, funding programs, for kids. Maslow talked about a hierarchy of needs. You have people that can't meet the basic needs: food, clothing, and shelter. So we have to address those needs, because if you don't address those needs, they become criminal issues.
Yep.
Keith?
I think they both said it well. Funding, jobs, and when I was the president of Urban League, summer job programs, that leads to success. Even the senior programs now are being eliminated based on funding. We need funds in order to create a world that's equal.
Yeah, very quickly, a quick response from each of you. How important is community engagement, staying engaged, not just for what you guys do, but how do all of us stay engaged quickly?
Well, it's very important. I mean, one of the things that we're doing right now in the organization I belong to, we're talking about young boys and young men. We have a camp at Winston-Salem State University. We have a bunch of young black men from across the state that we're mentoring for the rest of this week, or being the week of I think it's the 15th through the 19th. And that's important that we stay engaged with our young men to help them not having to deal with Sheriff Kimbrough and his colleagues.
Yeah, Sheriff.
President, you got to be present in the community, and you have to engage the community. Short and simple.
Engagement, education, and outreach. You got to have outreach. You have to educate the community, and you have to provide opportunities for the young people and people in the community, not just young people, but people in general.
I think of all three of you guys as good role models in the areas that you serve and generally. So my quick question to everybody to wrap this up. Who was your role model or mentor early on? Richard?
Well, my role model, as I mentioned earlier, I mentioned my parents. My parents were my role models. I mean, they're the smartest people I know with 3rd and 8th grade educations respectively, but they were the smartest people I know. And they always treated people with dignity and with kindness, and that's what I try to do every day of my life. I try to treat everybody I meet with the same kindness and dignity that I learned from them.
Sure.
I'd have to go with my brother Richard. Mine would be my father. I saw him work 2 jobs, B&G Pie Company, and he worked at R.J. Reynolds, and then when he retired from R.J. Reynolds, he went to the Marriott, and he was a bellman, carrying bags. And so I saw humility with him. I saw the willingness to serve. So my father would definitely be mine.
Keith?
I had 4 people. My great-grandmother, grandmother, mother, and brother. They all kind of combined to really help me navigate life. And I learned a lot from them, especially my grandmother, my great-grandmother, mother, based on the humility that they showed and the hard work they put in each and every day to give us an opportunity to dream big. And I'm really thankful for all the work they've done to help me.
Well, I'm thankful for all the work the three of you do in your respective areas, and I want to thank each of you for taking part in this special program, and special thanks to Keith's buddies at Ground Game Innovation for being a part of this and helping us work. Thank you to Richard and Sheriff Kimbrough.
Thank you.
Keith. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you all.
That's all for now. We'll see you next week.